What's going on, everyone? We are back for another live edition of the Bleed Los Podcast Carne Asada post-game show. The Dodgers got it done. Game one of the NLCS is ours. We are going to break down the game. And here tonight with you, we've got Cody, aka Canelo. We've got Anthony in the house, producer Roger behind the scenes. And as you know, I am Drea. Before we get into it all, we want to make sure to tell you about DodgersBeat.com. Stay up to date and in the know with all of the latest and most comprehensive coverage of the Los Angeles Dodgers. It is your one stop for articles, interviews, contests, merch, and more. Never miss a beat and check out DodgersBeat.com. Okay, boys, it was ugly at times, but the Dodgers figured it out. Game one is so key. Talk to me, Anthony. Did we set the tone tonight?
Yeah, we did set the tone. Blake Snell set the tone. He was other than the ninth inning, this game will always be remembered as the Blake Snell legacy game, at least for me. I think he solidified himself as a Dodger tonight. One of the most dominating performances in playoff recent history that I can remember. I mean, the commentators were kind of comparing it to Roy Halladay, his no-hitter. And I mean, Blake Snell had a one-hitter that he only gave up one hit, and it was on soft contact. So, game one dub. I'm happy. The Blake Snell game. I'm ready to get greedy and try to win game two tomorrow with Yoshi on the mound tomorrow.
Love it. Yeah, Cody, we're going to break down all of it, play by play, player by player, and all the good stuff that happened and some of the not so good stuff. But give me your general impressions of tonight's game.
Yeah, I think coming into this series, I figured that the Brewers were going to put up a really good fight, especially with how they play baseball. They're really good on defense, and we saw that on more than one occasion tonight with plays in the outfield. Crazy double play that I'm sure we'll get into that happened in the middle of this game. And then just some really good infield work. You know, Mookie Betts on that double play he hit into, that wasn't an easy out to get there. And they're a team that's pesky on the base paths. They're very patient at the plate. And it was really, like Anthony said, today was the Blake Snell game. You know, it's been the Blake Snell postseason. It seems like every time he steps on that mound for the Dodgers right now, he's proving the reason why the Dodgers gave him a 6-figure contract, 5-year deal. And it's to pitch in games like this as he looked out there today. He's a 2-time Cy Young Award winner for a reason, and he is showing it so far. And hit back-to-back starts, 6+ innings, only 1 hit allowed. You know, he looked just straight up dominant today. I think to end today's game, he retired like 13 or 14 straight batters. The Brewers had no answers for him today. And, you know, the Dodgers bullpen enters in the ninth, and it's kind of been the recurring theme that we've seen for most of the second half of the season. And honestly, all of our hearts dropped when we saw, Roki looking a little bit human out there recently, and Blake coming in to try to close things down, and he ends up getting helped out by a high chase there to end the game. But all in all, a win's a win. The Dodgers are up 1-0 in the NLCS. Game one's always huge, and now they got Yamamoto going tomorrow, which we'll dive into at the end of this episode. But I think if you're the Dodgers and you're a fan, you're in a really good spot right now for the rest of this championship series.
Oh, thank goodness, because I was getting a little too nervous at the end. Yeah, and definitely join us in the chat. Let us know what you think as you catch your breath. But yeah, is your player of the game Blake Snell? Is it Blake Trinan? The Blake's got it done. I mean, Anthony, talk to me more about Blake Snell. I mean, do we need to find a way to clone that man?
Yeah, he's actually what I love about him that he preps his own game plan. I love when they cut away to the dugout and he has his little binder there of kind of like, okay, I attack this guy this way. How do I face him going up? And what I like about him too, he doesn't look like the moment gets to him. He kind of just like he kind of lulls you to sleep, basically. He's gonna attack you. What I love too is that he's kind of controlled his walk issue that he used to have when he was much younger. And
Mhm.
now the game plan obviously is to attack these guys. These guys are not gonna chase. So he was kind of always, I felt every time a batter was up, he was always up 0-2 on them. He was kind of just attacking them. And then he'll try to get them to chase, whether it was the changeup that was really working for him today or any other off-speed pitch that he had going for him. But yeah, Blake Snell, again, this is the guy that I kind of expected when we signed in the offseason. It sucks that he was hurt for majority of the season, but now that he's peaking at the right moment, I think we could just ride this dude to hopefully a world championship.
I hope so, because I was a little worried about that going into tonight's game. I didn't question whether he was the right choice for our game one start, but walks have always been a part of his game, and that scares me because once you let those Brewers on base, they have been known to make themselves move around, come home. That's just their style of baseball. But Cody, talk to me about the key to winning against the Brewers is probably just keeping them off, what they're normally used to. Is that right?
Yeah, I think the game plan for Snell, and we saw it today with the pickoff throw where he ended up getting his lone a hit that he gave up to the Brewers third baseman. You know, he ends up picking him off in a caught stealing situation, and that's something Blake Snell has struggled with throughout his entire career. And that's not exclusive to just this season as well, which teams have tried to take advantage of that. The Padres earlier this year, in one of his starts, tried to steal like 3 or 4 times in the first 2 innings of the game, and Will Smith, threw them all out. The Brewers, they are an aggressive bunch. They led the league in steals. They led the league in infield hits. They play an opposite brand of baseball compared to the Dodgers, where the Dodgers try to outslug you. The Brewers just try to out hit you and it kind of just out baseball you. Someone was talking about today because, the Brewers manager, Pat Murphy used to be a college baseball coach. And you can kind of see it through the way he plays, with his team the past 2 years, where they'll drop a bunt down. They like to get infield hits. They would rather you get on base by any means rather than just hitting a double or triple or home run. Their main attack is getting on base and then creating havoc on the base path. And that's really putting pressure to the Dodgers, where they're not, the worst defensive team imaginable, but they're not the best. They're kind of middle in the pack. They're elite at like first base and shortstop. Mookie Betts has looked really good, but other in like the outfield, you can take advantage of it. Third base, as good as Max Muncy has been, there's also been some blunders from him as well. So the Brewers can take advantage of that. Tonight they couldn't because Blake Snell just did not allow them to get on base. I don't think he had a single walk today, which is, I think, the craziest thing about his stat line. I don't think he had many walks in Philadelphia either. So right now, Snell is just on another planet. He is as hot or, the hottest he's ever been in his career in terms of a streak of games. And, Kevin Cash has got to be watching this and be like, man, why didn't I let Snell just complete that inning or go another inning long? Because that was the narrative for Snell, is that, third time through the order, you really can't let him face it. And Dave Roberts probably saw him from the other dugout during the, 2020 World Series and said, I'm not doing that. I'm going to push him to his limits. How many times have we seen Dave Roberts say, hey, go over 99, 100 plus pitches, get me to the 7th or 8th inning with Blake Snell, where every other manager Snell's had in his career, except for maybe the no-hitter he threw last year, they've kind of been reluctant to let him go deep into games. And the Dodgers said, you know what, you missed half the season, like Anthony said, go get us as many outs as you can give us. We're going to ride you right now. And the Dodgers and Blake Snell, they proved why they gave him that contract, as I said earlier. But yeah, keep the Brewers off the bases, and then they become out of characteristically, with the pressure put on them. And we saw it at the end of the game, bases loaded. They're still losing the game. All they need is a hit, but, you got to hit outfield grass. You can't just put it in play on the Dodgers infield. And you saw them get uncharacteristically outside of their zone, swinging at that high fastball or sweep or whatever he swung at. It was a ball all the way, and he still swung and missed. So credit to the Dodgers, credit to Snell, credit to the bullpen locking it down, even though they were shaky. But yeah, good gutsy win for game one.
Yeah, credit to Snell. What I love about his mood and his attitude right now is he is not afraid to have that ball and to keep going. And I think we need that sort of mindset. It's like, no, I got this. And not only do I got this, I'm going to show you what I'm made of, kind of, attitude. And I love that in him. He'll take us deep. And when he has the ball, I don't worry. I feel really, really confident. And I love that. But it didn't have to be as stressful as it was in the ninth inning, because there was some squandered opportunities. Anthony, talk to me. Could the Dodgers have tightened that up a little bit when I believe it was the start with the fourth inning?
Yeah, that's kind of the frustrating part because this is such a close game, but you had opportunities to kind of blow the game wide open there in the fourth inning. Probably one of the craziest double plays I've probably ever seen in my lifetime. I've never seen a ball where the center fielder catches it, it hits the wall, catches it again, live ball, and then like there's just chaos on the base paths because
Yeah.
no one's paying attention to the umpire. Where this they didn't show it on the broadcast. On the broadcast, you didn't see anything. You just saw the catch and then immediately a throw home, and you see Teoscar sliding in there and he's out. It's kind of just one of those kind of where you kind of need Dino Ebo to kind of be like alert to that, looking at the umpire, kind of signaling to Will Smith, who was on second base, like, no, like let's go, let's go, let's go, let's keep going because live ball. But yeah, it was such like a chaotic moment there, and I was really afraid that they were gonna come back and actually score in that next inning and kind of just gain off that momentum. But thankfully, Blake Snell kind of like shut that all down, and he was masterful today. But Yeah, kind of a weird situation there, but yeah, it was a live ball situation, and unfortunately, we kind of bit the dust there. But it didn't burn us, but that's kind of one of those like things that probably in the regular season probably would have burned us. So kind of got lucky and got away with it there.
So I'll stick with you, Anthony, for this next part to piggyback off what you said. I mean, when they get to spring training, is that going to be like number one thing we work on is kind of like
Yeah.
develop?
It'll be introductions. Dave Roberts will give his speech, and then everyone get your running shoes. We're running base running drills day one, pitchers including too. But yeah, it's a weird thing. I've never seen something like that happen. Actually, I was seeing tweets. Michael Conforto had a play like that earlier on in the year. I forget against who. Again, I think it was the Mets too. Kind of the same deal, like where he catches it, bobbles it, and like it kind of causes havoc. But again, that's when you have your coaches to kind of like give you the signal, like, hey, like no, the umpire signaled safe, like let's go, let's go, let's go kind of deal. But in the heat of the moment, it looked like an out when we saw it on replay, and then you got a closer look on it. So it's kind of hard to tell. Maybe Dino didn't have the good look at it from there, but again, that's when you rely on your umpires to kind of give you the signal, like no, he's safe, like you can go from here.
And it was just really kind of odd because all the social media posts that were being, talking about it, it was people didn't really know how to interpret it. Like, this is one of the weirdest plays you'll ever see. And, the Dodgers just have to be ready for anything. We know they've done that in the past, and, anything can happen in baseball. So, but generally we had pretty good at bats. Would you agree, Cody?
Yeah, I think, even in that inning to get that bases loaded situation set up, Max Muncy squared up a ball, hit it to the deepest part of the park, and just, a series of unfortunate events happened to Muncy on that, who is credited with the, 0 for 1 and grounding into a double play, a ball that was hit 400 feet. Crazy situation there, but I thought most of the part, I think the Dodgers, finished with like 7 or 8 hits today. The Brewers' second best starting pitcher, Quint Priester, who pitched in this game for the bulk, I felt like they were getting to him, and he ended up not pitching as long as I think Pat Murphy wanted. I remember they asked him in the midway point of the game, how long is he going to go? And he said around 85 to 90 pitches. I think they pulled him at like 50, 55 pitches in this one. So to get him out there, to see almost half of the Brewers pitching staff today, I think is going to pay huge dividends for the rest of this series, especially, tomorrow game 2, they're going Freddie Peralta. Guy's one of the top 10 starting pitchers in baseball. Been there, done that, been around the league for a while. He's their one traditional starter that can go, from innings 1 to 7 or 8 and is going to give you some length. But I thought Freddie Freeman looked good today. He got the home run. Shohei Ohtani got a couple walks just by himself, and then they ended up intentionally walking him twice. So he was on base quite often. Mookie Betts getting the walk. He looked good, but his at-bats before that were a little shaky. But I thought they were overall more patient. It is harder, I think, to get in a groove when you're facing a bullpen game. And I remember, players in the Padres mentioned that last year as a reason why they struggled against the Dodgers in the division series over the final 2 games, is because they were seeing basically a different look every 1 to 2 innings, and that's hard to get a rhythm in. And the Dodgers, I think, they're good enough to where it doesn't really matter who's on the mound. I thought they had really good at bats against Uribe, their closer, McGill, their setup man, and pretty much everybody else in that bullpen. They only squeaked away with 2 runs today. It felt like it could have probably been at least 2 or 3 more if whatever happened in that middle inning where they, get the double play with the bases loaded on that Max Muncy flyout. You're talking about probably a different ball game if Teoscar Hernandez and Dino Abel kind of communicate a little bit better. Because, when I'm reading it off the bat, as soon as it's put in play, Teoscar shouldn't even be like taking a step or 2 forward. He should see that it's in the air, immediately touch, third base. And as soon as he sees it hit the glove, then you go in your normal tagging play. It ended up actually being a hit because it hit his glove, went off the wall, and then he put it back in his glove, threw it back in. So I think that confused the other base runners. But for Teoscar in that situation, I mean, I feel like it's very point blank and easy where he should have known it. But that's baseball. You get caught up in the moment. I mean, we saw, the Phillies pitcher in game 4 a couple days ago. He got caught up in the moment in the middle, had the sure out at first, decided to go to home plate, and we saw what happened there. A mistake was made. It ended up costing the Phillies. Tonight, didn't cost the Dodgers, but it's something that they're going to have to clean up moving forward, because I would say, I wasn't there for the pregame show, but I was going to say the biggest thing between these two teams is whoever makes more mistakes is going to be, the losing one in this one, because the Dodgers play good defense. They hit well in situations. They pitch well. The Brewers, you can say all the same things, and they probably even do some things a little bit better. So to kind of get one off there with that error on Teoscar and Abel at third, and to still win with all the stuff that happened to the Dodgers today, I would say is a big, big thing moving forward.
Oh, it's huge. And I think, they put us through a little more stress than we would have liked, because breaking it open earlier in the game would have definitely been a great relief, because then we wouldn't have had that kind of ninth inning craziness. But yeah, definitely seeing that sentiment in the chat. People are saying, shout out to Nathaniel Crenshaw, Samin Diaz, Jacob Brownson. Hey, what's up? Yeah, we were definitely nervous here too at my house. And I was seeing visions of our former bullpen come to life. And I was hoping that this time, we would really just kind of find that fierceness in us and not let that destroy a really good game and a gem of a Snell outing. But yeah, Anthony, talk to me. Why are we addicted to inning-ending double plays? What's up with the Dodgers and those?
I don't know, honestly. At least I'll give them credit that at least they're not going out striking out. But yeah, Mookie had one there in the fifth inning where it kind of just ruined the momentum as well too. But I just don't know. You got to give the bullpen guys they have over there some credit too. Like they found a way to shut down these guys. But I also feel like our bats kind of got a lot of good looks on these guys too as well. That's going to benefit us as the series goes on. They didn't use their big weapon out the bullpen, Mizurowski. I think he'll be a factor game 3 maybe at the earliest, depending on how game 2 goes tomorrow. But I feel pretty confident. I felt confident this morning when I woke up, when I saw that we had snow. I'm like, I just feel like we're gonna get a win today. I don't know. It just it didn't feel like it was gonna be a loss, but I know it sure felt like a loss, even though we won 2-1. But at the end of the day, we did get in the dub. But I don't know. I just feel like our bats are just gonna figure out these bullpen guys. Like bullpen games are good in theory, but if you throw out like 6, 7 dudes and like you struggle to even get a win and you end up losing, I think that does more damage in the long run than it does anything good for you.
Yeah, Cody, expand on that, because we are getting looks at their bullpen and they're essentially going to have to throw these guys out, a lot more in the 7-game series. Is it kind of to our advantage now to be getting all these looks on them now?
Yeah, and I think it puts more pressure tomorrow on Freddie Peralta to go deep into the game. I mean, one, you don't want to go down in the series 2-0. So if he's having a short start, that means the Dodgers got to him early. And I think the Dodgers, I would have to look it up, but I from games I remember off the top of my head, they haven't really had too many issues with Freddie Peralta in the past, but like I said, he is one of the better pitchers in the league. So you have to take that into an account, but he didn't look good against the Cubs in his last outing where they forced a game 5. So you got to take that into this as well. But yeah, you saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pitchers today from the Brewers pitching staff of 12. So you saw half of their pitching staff. You figure you're probably going to see at least 4 more tomorrow if Peralta doesn't go deep into the game. And, how many of those guys are going to go back to back? How many of those guys are going to be new faces that the Dodgers are seeing, getting another look at before they come to Dodger Stadium for 3 straight games? So you can take a lot of it. And I think the Dodgers, when you look at the stats for how they performed today, doesn't really tell the full story of their at-bat quality. And, I know, Anthony, you talked about situational hitting yesterday. They didn't really do too well in that department today. 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. And that one hit was a single by Edman where Teoscar Hernandez ended up not scoring in that inning. And then they left 11 runners on base. But, they forced this Brewers bullpen to work. They forced, Pat Murphy's hand to go with some pitching changes here and there. They didn't break the score column today, but we don't know what tomorrow has in store. And, you can't walk Ohtani every single plate appearance. You're not going to be able to walk Freddie Freeman every single time or opportunity you get as well. You have to face these guys eventually. And I thought we saw a lot of good swings from Max Muncy, Freeman, Betts, Ohtani. I felt like he looked a lot more comfortable at the plate, even with some of those lefties on the mound. I just think the Phillies had such elite left-handers that it was very overwhelming for Ohtani, where the Brewers, on the other hand, they do have elite stuff, but they're nowhere near the pitching talent that the Phillies had. But 2-1 game here, very pitching friendly, and we'll see what the Dodgers offense does tomorrow, but I'm expecting probably a bigger game from them as a collective unit moving forward.
Yeah, we could really stick the knife in tomorrow if we take that, just like we did with the Phillies series. But yeah, with against Freddie Peralta, it's since 2018. We are overall, when he faces the Dodgers, 4-2. He has a 3.29 ERA, 40 strikeouts in 8 appearances. So we have gotten to him before. So that does kind of bode well for the potential for tomorrow. But let's talk about another Freddie, Anthony. Freddie, Mother effing Freeman. I mean, he really started off, the tone for us to say, hey, we're on the board now. Are we starting to see the signs of clutch postseason Freddie coming to life?
I think he's here. I think he's arrived. The matchup against Philadelphia had its very difficult because he had all those overpowering lefties, and it kind of neutralizes Freddie Freeman. And I feel like that home run was kind of that. Well, I thought he hit us. Let's first of all, the cameraman at TBS, like, what's up with your work, man? Like, I thought he hit another one, like, and then it cut away to that quick shot of the crowd, and the next thing you know, I see Freddie Freeman kind of like struggling to get to second base, but I feel like he's kind of locked in and he's found his zone here. I think he's going to be a big factor into why we win this series. I know we didn't have a pregame show, but I kind of was leaning towards him being my like NLCS MVP, kind of to like build off that. This is kind of the series where I see Freddie Freeman kind of explode, and you saw it here earlier today. Unlucky not to get that second home run. I thought he got it. Cameraman obviously didn't think he got it, but yeah, I think he's kind of here and he's arrived. He's going to be a key factor for us specifically because he's also a guy who sees a lot of pitches and he's also not going to chase a lot of bad pitches. But we'll see where he's at. But I feel very confident that Freddie Freeman has arrived to the postseason.
Oh yeah, feel the same way. And do not get me started on the camera coverage. I mean, I think I take for granted we watch it here in LA on Spectrum at my house, and I don't realize how amazing it is till I have to watch it in different ways. So yeah, definitely was not happy with that. But I want to talk a little bit about Andy Pages, Cody, because we haven't seen in this series and even the prior series really smart production from his offense. What do you think could be the cause of that? Just the lights too bright, lack of experience in postseason?
Yeah, I don't know. Once you're in a slump, it's kind of hard to break out of it, and you're seeing the best pitching that you're going to see all season. Every guy that's taken the mound for these postseason teams, they're on those teams for a reason, on the roster for because of their ability and how good they were in the regular season. And the Brewers, they have one of the best bullpens in baseball. I mean, from top to bottom, you could probably say they have the deepest pitching staff in the sport, maybe even a little bit more than the Dodgers, even though we have very heavy starting pitching. The Brewers have a very good collective overall pitching. So, and I think he may be pressing. I did like some of his at-bats earlier in the game. He had almost like a 9 or 10 pitch at-bat, worked the count, looked good there, ended up still striking out, but, baby steps, I guess. And, at the end of the day, who's going to start over him? Not many guys. Alex Call, I wouldn't say to start over him. That's probably the only one. Ha-Sung Kim, maybe. But, Andy Pages has come up big before in the past. He had a couple home runs in the LCS last year against the Mets. I think he'll eventually get it going. But, yeah, I mean, some encouraging signs from him and the rest of the entire the Dodgers offense, but you hope that it changes. But if that's your 9-hole hitter, I mean, how much are we really going to complain about it? We'll take what we can get today and see what we can get tomorrow. And I think Dave Roberts kind of even alluded to that as well, where they're going to continue running him back out there. They've stuck with a lot of their guys for a reason. And Andy Pages had a really good second year, 27 home runs, all that. Better in defense now, but we just haven't seen it in October yet. If he starts to get clicking, then we're talking about a whole different ballgame with the offense, especially the bottom third of the order, setting it up for the top of the order, and especially Ohtani. But I'm not too worried, but as long as he knows his role, I just ask him, be a little bit more patient, take a walk. You don't have to, swing and get a hit every single time. Like if it's a ball low or just at the edge of the zone, like just take a pitch. Just take a pitch. If the ump screws you, the ump screws you, but a walk is as good as a base hit. So that's the mentality I would have if I was Andy Pages right now. Just do the little things. Put it in play. He did it in game 4 against Philly. Singles, walks. That's what you got to do, and then work your way up to the big boy numbers.
Yeah, I mean, the pass the baton mentality should, people shouldn't be afraid of it, because it can be just as productive as, them trying to swing for the hills. But yeah, those umps a little bit, Anthony. Did you think we kind of got some bad calls there that worked, not in
We
our
got,
favor?
yeah, we got squeezed a little bit, but I felt like he was kind of fair for both sides. I didn't think it was kind of like a big storyline coming out of this game. I would have loved if we would have got a more clear signal, but the replay did show that he did signal safe on that play in the fourth inning on the Muncie double play. Unfortunate play there, but I can't really complain about the strike zone. I think he was pretty fair on both sides. I don't think any guy would kind of point to it. I think guys on the Brewers side would be like, yeah, we have to be more effective. We stop chasing stuff, and the Dodgers just have to come through in those situational at bats.
Okay, that's, I mean, kind of, it's not the huge storyline, but I think that they really do need to make sure that, they have their calls in check because the games are only going to get more and more intense as we get closer and closer to the potential World Series. And one-run games are, a part of playoffs. It might come down to a lot of one-run games. And we need to make sure that when we have chances, that we take advantage of it. But I kind of want to ask you guys about something I've been hearing a lot in the media the last couple of days and even in the last week, that this average Joe narrative of the Milwaukee Brewers, and you have their manager, talking about them like they're some humble corn-fed farmers from, little old town, and that they, were so lucky to be here. Yet they're the team that had the best record in baseball. Cody, what's your take on this whole, the little engine that could? I think Dave Roberts called it today.
It's all BS. I mean, it's a way for, Pat Murphy to drive up the media narrative, kind of try to put more pressure, I guess, on the Dodgers where, the Dodgers should win this series. They should roll the floor with the Brewers. But, Dave Roberts, credit to him, everybody in that clubhouse and even in the Brewers clubhouse they know these guys are Major League Baseball players, whether you know their names or not, because I know a lot of Dodger fans, including myself, I don't know more than probably half the roster on the Brewers right now, but I do know that they're a good baseball team and they play it the right way. And watch this game today. I mean, they played us way better than any other team we faced in the postseason so far, better than the Phillies, better than the Reds. So this is going to be the hardest test for the Dodgers, for not because of the power that they have on offense, but just how clean they play the game of baseball, which that could be the most frustrating thing. Seeing a team that is very elite on defense, that, plays the small ball mindset, that can drive a fan base like us crazy when we see guys getting on base that way and creating havoc any way they can. But to say that, they're the underdog narrative when they had 97 wins this year, you could say it's a true David versus Goliath because of the payrolls, differences. But at the end of the day, these are two Major League Baseball teams that each had 90 plus wins. The Brewers, they have home field advantage. In two of the three meetings, the Brewers have had home field advantage of the Dodgers in their postseason appearances against each other. So, I mean, it's baseball. Anything can happen, especially in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. I think a lot of people don't buy it. Definitely, it's going to be something that everybody in the media will run away with to just talk about. I feel like that's been the main story we've seen leading up to this series. But Dave Roberts, I trust him, and he pretty much just shot it all down. I think they find it a little bit funny. Even Blake Snell yesterday during his pregame was like, I don't want to hear no average Joe's talks. They're a really good team, and I have to find ways to get them out. And credit to him, he executed his plan masterfully.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not the average Joes, but Anthony, could you argue that maybe today in this game they were the average Joes?
You could argue it. Look, man, this team beat us 6 times in the regular season. You don't think I know like a few of these guys' names on the roster? Like the average Joes is my Tuesday Sunday league, or not my Tuesday softball league that I play with. Those are the average Joes. Like if you want to see an average Joe, I went to the cages a couple days or a day or two ago, and I looked completely awful. That's an average Joe. Like enough of this whole like fake like oh like we're the little engine that could. You know who the little engine that could was? It was the Cincinnati Reds. If the Cincinnati Reds somehow ended up in the National League Championship Series, that's my little engine that could. But like Cody said, we faced these guys twice in the NLCS. They've had home field twice in the NLCS. It kind of tells you the organization they run out there. And like this game was not a little engine that could kind of game either. Like it was a very close game. They had an opportunity to win it there at the end. So I'm not buying this whole like, oh, they should win. They're the big bad Dodgers. Yes, we're the big bad Dodgers, but we gotten our teeth kicked in before. Like I always go back to the Arizona series where I was very confident that we were going to sweep them, and next thing you know, we're packing our bags for Cancun. So I'm tired of this whole like, oh yeah, they're the big bad guys. They should handle it. No, enough of that. They're like, this isn't wrestling. This isn't wrestling. This is pro baseball. Like both these teams are good. If you're one of the last four teams, you deserve to be at this spot. You're a really good baseball team.
No, drop your mic, King. I'm telling you, you just kind of perfectly encapsulated what I was thinking. I mean, Cody, do you think he's just trying to give bulletin board material to his players? Because it really is just BS.
Yeah, probably. But I think they're smart enough to know, like, inside the clubhouse. Like, I was watching a couple other, baseball podcasts, as I do, and a lot of the ones with former players, they were like, look, the guys that are playing the game, that are in the clubhouse, they don't care what Pat Murphy's saying. If you ask the Brewers if they're the best team in baseball, they're going to tell you that they're the best team in baseball, and that's for good reason, because they have the stats to back it up. They didn't lead in slugging or home runs, but they led in wins. Their pitching staff was nails, and they scored their runs in different ways, and they were still a top 3 offense in the game. They scored over 800 runs this year. They just did it in probably an even harder way to score runs, which is, singles, stolen bases, and then timely hitting. That was the Brewers mentality, and they're a very good baseball team, and they know it. Coming into the series, they had the most confidence to say that we can take down the Dodgers. If anyone can do it, we can do it. And that's when I said, coming into this series, where this would probably be the team to give the Dodgers the most fits. I actually thought it would probably be either them or the Cubs, because the Cubs and the Brewers play very similar baseball, which is, timely hitting and elite defense and stealing bases, which I think is like the Dodgers, kryptonite, especially in that 9th inning that we saw. Blake Trinan gives up a runner at first. They got runners in the corner, doesn't even look at the runner, and he goes advanced 90 feet. That's something as a fan that just drives me insane, because then you're setting up, all right, well, now a single scores 2 runs there, and they ends up walking the other batter anyway, so I guess it was a moot point. But still, it's those type of small things that could be the difference between a win and a loss, and the Brewers know that too. And they're a clutch hitting team. I think they mentioned on the broadcast that only one team had more walk-off wins than the Brewers this year, and it was the Red Sox. Brewers had 11 walk-off wins. They had a lot of comeback wins this season as well. So they're a good baseball team, and I think all of us now know that. And we know it's probably going to I put Dodgers in 5. This may be going 6 or 7 games, I feel, just to how close this game was. We'll see what happens in game 2, but I don't expect the Brewers to back down.
They won't back down. And I think that our predictions are like, this probably will go a little bit it's going to go the distance a little bit. I would love to sweep. I would love to have it won in LA, but the Brewers are going to make adjustments just like the Dodgers make adjustments, and they're a very good team. So definitely we're going to be in for a show this week. But yeah, Anthony, I want to talk a little bit about Roki, because going into today, I think that's the only bullpen piece a lot of us wanted to see, thinking that he's, infallible. And we saw a little bit of more of the human side of Roki. Was he just due for, one of those innings? We saw a little bit of a lower velo. What's your take on him?
I think his command just wasn't there. You can tell he wasn't locating his pitches. I don't know if it was like the adrenaline spike or stuff like that, or I think it was just more his mechanics were off. I was getting a little bit nervous there. I'm kind of glad it did end up going to Blake Trining at the end, because I felt like if you leave him out there to essentially die and give up the game, I don't know if that kind of ruins his confidence going forward. So you sub in your more experienced guy in Blake Trining to kind of figure out a way to get out of it, but. I don't know. I feel like mechanically, I think it might just be a command issue. I don't know if it's just like this is the guy who he is now. I think he was due a bad start or a bad relief role appearance, but I would like to see how he bounces back potentially. I don't know if they'll use him tomorrow. They probably won't, or probably game 3 going there, or game 4. But I just want to see how he bounces back. That he wasn't going to be perfect throughout the whole playoff run. He was going to be due one of these bad starts, or bad appearances. I keep using starts because he's a starting pitcher, but he was due one of these bad appearances. But I'm anxious to see how he bounces back game 3 and going forward from there.
Cody, do we have to just remember that Roki's young and he's still developing and isn't going to be 100% perfect and linear all the way through?
Yeah, I think that's something that Dave Roberts has pretty much explained to us, throughout the entire postseason so far, where they don't want to use Roki too much to even though he is young, he missed almost more than half of the season due to an injury, and they're putting him into a role that he's never been into before in his entire career. He just kind of went into it on the fly in the last 2 or 3 weeks of the regular season, and now here he is pitching high leverage innings, closing out games in October. I just thought the command was off today. And like Anthony said, it could have probably been mechanical. The velocity wasn't too bad or different to me, than what the media guys were tweeting out on social media. I mean, he was hitting 98, 97 miles per hour. That's still way above than, what he's been hitting all regular season. If you were saying, all right, he's only throwing 95, 94 miles per hour, I'd be like, all right, what the hell's wrong with Roki? I mean, is he injured? But, I just feel like it had to have been something minor, mechanical. I don't think he will pitch tomorrow. He threw over 20 pitches in this. They've been reluctant to do back-to-back days. They've been trying very hard not to use him every, 2 and 3, a 3-day period. So I think the next time we'll see him is probably game 3 or game 4, depending on the situation. So it'll be interesting tomorrow to see if the Dodgers have a lead, how late Yamamoto goes into the game and how they maneuver that, because, they used Blake Trinan today as well, threw some heavy pitches there. So maybe he's down tomorrow. So you kind of got to work your way. Maybe Jack Dreyer, Alex Vesia, Ben Kasparius, who is back on the roster. So it'll be interesting to see how Dave Roberts manages that tomorrow. But he was never going to be perfect in Sasaki, where you expecting him to go in each and every outing, especially coming off an appearance where he went, 3 innings of shutout baseball in game 4 of the DS. I mean, he was due for a clunker. Luckily, it was only 1 run given up. Didn't blow the lead. Still has some of that confidence, and the Dodgers ended up getting the win anyway. And we've been saying it. You can't just keep Roki. You can't just have like 2 or 3 guys in the bullpen, especially in a 7-game set. You're going to have to use guys that you're uncomfortable with. I mean, hell, we were preaching for Tanner Scott to get some appearances here. You're going to see Clayton Kershaw. You're going to see some of these other guys on the roster, Justin Wroblewski, all of them. You're going to see all of them pitch in this series. You're going to need some of them, most of them, to be good, and then pick your poison on the days you want to use all your high leverage guys like they did in the division series. So we'll see how Dave Roberts manages it. I have the most confidence in him managing the bullpen and the starting rotation. The only issue I had today is I really wanted Blake Snell to at least start the 9th. I understand why they ended up pulling him. I think they just mentioned after the game they didn't want to push him too much because he's going to be starting on regular rest for game 5. So I'll say that's a good excuse for right now.
Game 5 being Saturday. Okay. I just kind of want to turn our attention a little bit to some news around the league, but it could affect us in the near future if we were to go on to the next round. Anthony, you've got family over in Seattle, and it looks like the Mariners took a 2-0 lead over the Blue Jays. Wasn't expecting that, considering they were rested. They were watching that 15th inning thinking, hey, licking our chops for them. How weird is baseball when, you just don't know? Surprised by that?
Yeah, actually a little bit surprised. I was kind of expecting them, the Jays to kind of split it today. Going back to Seattle 0-2, I've been seeing a lot of TikToks. That crowd is ready to explode. If you guys watch any football, the Seahawks, they call themselves the 12th man. They feel like they can influence games out there. A lot of my family feel like they have a legitimate chance. And I think they do have a legitimate chance. You're up 2-0. You won 2 games in Toronto. Toronto's not an easy place to play in either. I think they have all the confidence in the world going there, thinking that, yeah, we're 2 wins away from making it to the World Series. So we'll see where they're at. I still too early. I don't want to kind of jinx it. I kind of want us to get through this series, but there's a lot of talk going on, at least in my family. A lot of messages are being exchanged, but right now I kind of just want to take it game by game here. I don't want to lose sight of the Brewers, and I'll go from there.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at that because I really did think like maybe that extra rest would help them. But then you have to think, and Cody, I'll just kind of switch this over to you. Sometimes the rest it could be a curse, or it could be kind of like a hindrance, because it's not always wise to get out of that groove. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that for the Dodgers after the regular season. They ended the year winning 15 of their 20 games in September. They go into the wild card and destroy the Reds. They continue that momentum and go into Philly, take 2 games there, and then end up winning the series in 4 games. And then, continuing off of that, a gutsy winning game 4. They only had the weekend off, and then they come into this series against the Brewers and take another game on the road. So I do think it does matter that you continue to play. The Dodgers have had success in both ways of this new playoff format. They won the World Series last year with the bye. Now they're 3 wins away from going back to the World Series while playing the wild card. So I think it's different situations for different teams, but I feel like you are seeing a Blue Jays team kind of maybe falter a little bit from getting a little bit of rest, taking care of the Yankees in 4 games. And, I'm actually kind of surprised about the Seattle Mariners. You play a 15-inning game, and then you hop on a plane, and then you go to Toronto, and then you're playing baseball almost, less than 24 hours later. And to drop, like 13, 15 runs in the first 2 games against the Blue Jays and at their stadium, I mean, credit to them. I will call it, Anthony. That series is over. They're going back to Seattle. I'm pretty sure they're going to go crazy there. Seattle's got Brian Wu coming back, who's been their best starting pitcher this season. We'll see whether he starts games 3, 4, or 5. But yeah, I'm anti-Canada. I don't want the Blue Jays making it to the World Series. I don't like 2 national anthems. I don't want to go back and forth with all of that, the traveling stuff and being an issue. So sorry, Toronto. Never again you're going to the World Series, but it'll be interesting to see what happens over these next 3 games in Seattle. I can't imagine the playoff atmosphere there.
Oh, Cody says it's over. Yeah. Maybe that Etsy witch they hired is working overtime to get them all that devil magic. I don't know. But assuming that does happen, Anthony, could there be a World Series in Seattle in your future to go rep your Dodgers jersey over there?
No way. It's just I can't even afford to go to a game here in LA. I don't know if Seattle's in the docket, but I'm starting to get a little bit excited. I don't know. It just felt like when I went to watch them in person, I just didn't see the team that they became. It just was kind of like a lackluster. Like, obviously they weren't starting their main guys, but most of the position players were playing, and I'm like, it just feels like the Dodgers one game. The game I went to started the B team because the regulars were hungover. So I'm like, I don't know. So maybe they kind of just like clicked on here, but I'm excited. I think Seattle actually does have a legitimate chance of going back to the World Series or going to the World Series actually. And if we do get there, it'd be interesting to see how we attack them because you're coming off the sweep against them. But I don't know if you take that sweep into consideration, kind of stuff here and there. But I don't know. Full focus continues on the Brewers until we go up 2-0 in the series tomorrow.
I hope we can follow their pattern. That would be awesome. But yeah, let's turn our attention to what we're going to see next or what we could see next. So, Cody, who's on the mound tomorrow?
So it's Yamamoto versus Freddie Peralta. We're seeing a new version of Yamamoto, fully black hair. He's changing things up. Didn't do well in his game 3 start. So he's superstitious. We all are a little bit. And he's feeling him. I imagine he wants a rebound start. So I have a lot of faith in Yamamoto delivering a solid performance. I think it's going to be up to the offense and how well they perform against Peralta and the Brewers bullpen. But, if they can go up 2-0 in the series, bring it back to LA, and then you'll have Tyler Glasnow and Shohei Ohtani, and then Blake Snell potentially again in that game 5. I think you really got to like the Dodgers' chances there. But it should be a good matchup tomorrow. But, I have the utmost faith in Yamamoto delivering a quality performance tomorrow in game 2.
Yeah, I love the Yamamoto starts. And I know that every now and then he has, one of those clunkers, but I think that right after he has one, he comes back and he shows us why he's getting paid what he's getting paid. Anthony, what are the keys to the game tomorrow?
Keys to the game, it's going to be similar to Blake Snell. Yoshi has to kind of rebound from his bad start against Philadelphia, which I think he will. I don't think he's going to have 2 clunkers in a row. And the offense kind of has to keep doing what it's doing, but this time come through in those situational at bats. I think if you chase Freddie Peralta and you get into that bullpen again, I think you're really asking for them to see if they'll burn Mizorowski or not. And I'd be interested to see if they do or not. If you kind of chase Peralta early and you score a 5 or you throw a 5 spot up there, I think you have a really solid chance of winning the series in probably 4 or 5 games. But again, I'm very cautious. I don't want to get too tempting of the baseball gods, so I'm looking forward to some good ball tomorrow.
Yeah, so we filmed our predictions a little bit earlier. I think we kind of touched on what we think those might be. Like, do we think it's going to go, 5, 6, 7 games? None of us are really calling a sweep, but I want to do one up better. If we do, in fact, get the win and go on to the World Series, A, how many wins are we going to take it in? And B, who's going to be the NLCS MVP? Anthony, start with you.
Ooh, so we get the win tomorrow. I would say 5 games, and my MVP, Blake Snell. I think Blake Snell would come back in that fifth game and kind of do the same thing he did today and dominate. I know it's a pitcher, it's kind of weird,
Mhm.
but hey, if he goes out there and he throws another 8 inning like masterpiece and only has one hit again, it's kind of hard to argue against him.
I wouldn't be mad at it, Cody. So yeah, how many games and who is your NLCS MVP? We'll see if we get this right.
Yeah, I think even with how today went, if they definitely go up 2-0 in Milwaukee and then bring it back to Dodger Stadium for 3 games, I'm still going to go with my prediction of 5. Even as good as the Brewers are, it's really tough to kind of outlast this star power that the Dodgers have. And the pitching staff is going to be a big reason why. But I think one guy that we saw unlocked today that's probably going to have a big series because he loves hitting against the Brewers throughout his career. I think Freddie Freeman, he already has a World Series MVP on his belt. Why not add an LCS MVP to boot to add to his Hall of Fame career? But I just felt like all of his swings today were comfortable. I mean, even his outs looked very productive. I mean, he got robbed of basically an extra base hit in his second at bat where he took a line drive oppo that ended up getting robbed by the left fielder out there with a nice leaping grab. But Freeman looks really locked in. If what Anthony says is true as well, if they get it to a game 5 and Blake Snell's back on the mound, I just don't think until the Brewers show me that they have an answer, I feel like he could go another 7+ innings of work and keep these hitters off balance because Blake Snell does a really good job of managing, start to start, inning to inning, where he will change things up. I mean, we saw it on the broadcast today. He and Mark Pryor were just looking at that binder, looking at ways to dissect these hitters on the Brewers, and that's just the way he is. Perfect pitcher's pitcher. He knows what he's doing. This game's his. I could see Blake Snell taking away an MVP as well, especially with how cold the offense has kind of been. If the Dodgers pitching staff keeps them in games like this and they go deep, really you're asking whoever gives you 2 starts and pitches like that. I mean, you might as well just give him the MVP of the series.
I have to agree with that. And I'm so happy that it was Snell at the end of the day rather than any of the other pitchers they could have acquired. Andrew Friedman clearly knew what he was doing. And Snell tends to be a second, half of the season strong pitcher. And so I don't think they were super worried that he was not necessarily with us at the beginning because they knew what he was capable of in the second half. And he's certainly showing that now. But just to kind of, I guess, be a little bit different than you guys, as much as I agree that Snell should be it, I'm going to say it's going to be Mookie Betts. And I think we're going to see some really great things from him in the next few days. And I just think it would really kind of be awesome to see him get that following the storyline of him not having the strongest beginning to the season and all of the adversity he had to overcome, kind of similar to Freddie last year when he was going through all of his internal issues with his family and his son, etc. But he came through and he got the World Series MVP. And I kind of would like to see that for Mookie. So we'll see. I think it's going to go 6 games. I would love it to go 5 and win it at Dodger Stadium and see the fireworks go off and the crowd celebrate. But my heart tells me that this is going to be ours. I really feel it. And I think setting the tone for game 1 is really the key for today. So I'm very excited for that. But yeah, so we are going to go ahead and start getting ready to wrap up. Anthony, do you have any final thoughts as we get ready to close the show?
Final thoughts? No, that was kind of more stressful than it needed to be. Happy with the game 1 victory. Excited for game 2 tomorrow.
Oh my. So yeah, Cody, give us your final thoughts and tell us where we can find all of your work.
Yeah, first things first, DodgersBeat.com. Got a lot of content over there that was previewing this series, kind of looking back on, the Brewers-Dodgers playoff history from 2018, 2020, and then this year as well, leading up to it. All the pregame, postgame notes. We'll definitely have all that stuff up later tonight and tomorrow morning as well, getting you ready for game 2. But yeah, my final thoughts today. Good gutsy win, way to hold on. I mean, that changed pretty much. If the Brewers would have taken the lead, tied it, or even won this game, that changes the whole series, in a nutshell. And game 1, like you said, Drea, it's the most important game. You start off on the right foot. Dodgers are up 1-0 in the series, 3 wins away from return to the Fall Classic. Now, just got to go 1-0 every single day. And Yamamoto on the bump tomorrow. That's the Dodgers ace from, beginning to end. We're looking for a rebound start, and hopefully they send us back to LA with a 2-0 series lead. But yeah, DodgersBeat.com. We'll have you all covered there.
Awesome. So definitely check that out because it definitely keeps you informed throughout the day as we get ready for the games each evening. We're definitely going to be doing our best to make sure that we are live with you daily as long as we are in the playoffs and doing whatever pre-games we can and post-game shows. So definitely come back here, check us out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification. And thank you for everyone in the chat and everyone watching for joining us because it is definitely an exciting night after the Dodgers took the 1-0 win in the first game of the NLCS. But yeah, check out our handles as well. You can find me, Drea, at Ravine Queen 1958. You can find Anthony on X and Instagram at Anthony Acosta _, and you can find Cody on X at Snavely Cody 6. So until tomorrow, let's go Dodgers.